Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today I appreciate that this video probably isn't for everyone because quite a few of you out there might already have your LGV certificate or test, but as previously mentioned, I can't actually drive Dennis, so I need to pass my test in order to be able to take him out on the road. And I thought what I'd do is do a quick video just explaining what the whole theory side of the test entails, just in case it helps anyone who might be going through a similar situation as myself and needing to take the test. So on entry to the training centre, you first enter the reception area. You have to do this by first of all pressing the button outside. It's a secure location, so you can't just walk in. So you press the button into the reception area and you're met by a member of staff who will book you in for your test or tests, depending on what you're doing. Here you hand over your driving licence as proof of ID and you're required to basically empty your pockets at this point. You are given a locker and a locker key for your possessions, but anything electronic needs to be turned off first, and this includes phones and smartwatches. You are then asked to confirm if you require audio assistance. Now, if this has been booked for you by a training company, it's almost certainly that they will have said that you do need to have audio assistance. That's because they just don't want to ask you the question. All audio assistance will be is the computer will read out the question to you rather than you simply reading it off the screen. If you feel competent and confident enough to be able to read the question rather than having it read to you, then just say at this point that you don't need the audio assistance, and that's not a problem. The headphones will still be there, it's just that the questions won't be read out for you. So once you've confirmed this and your pockets are empty and everything's locked away into the locker, someone will escort you then to the test suite, or as they call it, a test lab. In the lab, you will be checked again. And for the purpose of security around the whole testing process, I'm not going to go into full details of the checks that they carry out, but your pockets are checked to ensure they are empty, and you are then checked for any other form of electronic equipment. So they will go over you and get you to demonstrate to them that you do not have any kind of electronic gadgetry on you that will assist you in some way. Now, if like me, you went and you were doing two tests at once, so I was doing the theory test and the hazard perception test, then you are offered at this point to select which test you want to do first. I opted to do the theory first and then the hazard perception test afterwards. That seems to be the general order, but there's absolutely no issue if you want to do them the other way around. You just tell the staff and they will set up the computer accordingly. You're then allocated the test station, and the setup is just basically a long bench which is divided with screens between each individual person. You then go to your test station and you make yourself comfortable, which includes adjusting the chair if you need to, moving the mouse, etc., and putting it in the place that you want it. Note at this point that there is no keyboard on the table. All you have is the screen, a small terminal computer, which is the mouse is connected to, and a mouse and a pair of headphones which are plugged into it as well. We'll mention those again in a moment. The instructions on the screen tell you to click on your name to confirm it is correct. If your name is not displayed correct, then obviously again flag up to the staff and make sure they make a correction for you. For the theory test, there is 100 questions for which you have 2 hours to complete them. This is an extremely generous amount of time. And if you've prepared for the test, you aren't going to need anything like that. Once the test starts, the countdown is on. You'll see a clock in the top right hand corner, and that is counting down from 2 hours. There is also underneath that clock a confirmation of what question number you are on and how many questions there are. So you'll see something like question 4 of 100. Work through the questions at your pace. There's an option to click a flag on any question you want to go back to at the end of the check. So it's just a little option for you if you're not planning on going back and rechecking all the questions, which is what I did. then you can just flag individual questions to say to yourself, I just want to go back and check that question again. The test screen looks very similar to what is on the screen now. There is a question with 4 possible answers. For the theory test, there is only one correct answer, unless it says otherwise. So work through all 100 questions. There is an option to leave questions blank if you don't know what the answer is. However, I would strongly advise against that. You don't get negative marks for incorrect answers, so they won't deduct marks off you if you get something wrong. So take a guess. If you take a guess, you've got a 25% chance of getting it right. And usually there's a couple of answers on there which are quite obviously wrong. So, you're down to a 50-50 chance of getting the answer right. So don't leave any questions blank, is my advice. Take it or leave it. At the end, once you're happy with your attempt, click on the end of the test and your score is captured by the computer and kept for presented to you later. You do not get your result on the screen, so you will not know whether you have passed or failed prior to going into the next part of the test, which is a good thing because the last thing you need is that negative reinforcement that you've just failed one part of the test before going into the next bit, because the tests stand independently of each other. If you pass one and fail the other, you only need to come back and resit the one that you failed. So after you've completed your first test, be it the theory or be it the hazard perception, you then have an option to either progress immediately with the next test or to take a break. I opted to continue. The hazard perception tests start in very much a similar way to the theory test, i.e. with a screen showing your name and a request to confirm that it is correct, and then a couple of pages of instructions. At this point you are instructed to put on the headphones. This is because you're then about to watch a video which will give you instructions on how the hazard perception test works. The video has a narrator and it plays a practice video showing you what the test will expect you to click on. Once you've finished watching that test, if you wish, you can take the headphones back off again. You don't need them for the actual test, but you do need them for the instruction video. You click on start and the computer will then run through 19 videos, which you are required to click on every time you see a hazard, which may or may not become a developing hazard. Now I found that my identification of hazards was a little quicker for many of the videos that the test will accept. Be this because of my blue light driver training or just an overcautious approach, either way, a single click is possibly going to miss the sweet spot, the bit that will score you 5 points. My best advice is to click a couple of times on the hazard that you see. Be careful, however. There is a warning on the screen at the beginning that says rapidly clicking on the video or clicking in a pattern will be identified by the computer and it will be rejected and your score 0. So don't just spam on the mouse button, don't just keep rapidly clicking away, but there's nothing wrong with just a couple of clicks when you have seen the hazard. There is also no cursor on the screen, so you don't actually physically need to put the cursor onto what you're clicking about and click. All you do is you just click the mouse and that will record that you have observed something on the screen to be a hazard, which is a good thing because you might see one thing which is a hazard and it's actually something else on the screen, and you've got a chance that you'll still manage to get some points. There is also no limit on how many hazards you will see. So again, click as soon as you see anything at all that could develop into a hazard. Once you've clicked, keep watching, and if the hazard you have identified continues to get worse, click it again and again. Just be mindful to not click rapidly in that pattern as previously mentioned. Once the developing hazard has occurred, you will know that you have seen the developing hazard. It'll be something obvious like somebody stepping off a curb or a car coming out of a junction. However, again, be careful. Some videos will have a couple of developing hazards, so don't think just because you've seen one that then you can let your guard down. Keep watching until the end of the video because there could be a second one. So always remember to keep clicking on anything that you see to be a hazard. The scoring on the video is between 5 and 1 based on how quickly you identify the developing hazard. If you are able to click when the hazard first presents itself, then you get 5 points. If you don't click until you are virtually on top of the hazard, then you'll probably only score 1. Once you've been through all the videos, then you realise that you are finished. Time to leave the test lab and head back to reception. Once you're back at reception, you are first directed to collect all your possessions from the locker, and then you are presented with your results. They will make sure that you take all your property first before giving you the results, probably just to stop those enthusiastic people getting the results and running out to tell friends, etc., and leaving all their property inside. So get your property, then get your results. And if you're lucky enough like I was, then you'll have passed both tests and you're then ready to go on to your practical. And the practical, well, that'll be either another video or certainly another different test. Good luck everyone, and thanks very much for coming to the channel, for subscribing and liking, and next week we'll get on with a bit more work on the truck.